right, we've started.
All right, we are live. Brian hit the button.
It's been on for a while.
Okay, great. We were just talking about how we can make some upgrades to this podcast, which is brought to you by Nike Weightlifting and the wonderful Travis Fox at Athlete Performance Solution, as well as Killcliff, test positive for awesome. And our man Austin Cahoy kicking it off this weekend with CrossFit Team Viking. That's not their real name, but you will see them out there beating on CrossFit Rich Fronings.
They're going to be the ones riding the bike,
Yes.
running over the obstacle.
Yep. And so today we have a very shortish podcast for you, and where we're just going to talk about meet prep for specifically Olympic weightlifting. But before we get started with that, I have to have a brief interruption. And for the people on YouTube, this is really going to be much more enjoyable. 2 weeks ago, last week, I stopped at my parents' house on my way out of town, which is a really gorgeous, gorgeous town. And it brought back a lot of memories of my childhood, but I had to stop by the old CVS there in town, and this caught my eye.
Did you have to?
I did. I had to get some medications. And that is a Muscle and Fitness magazine that I'm holding up. The same Muscle and Fitness magazine that everybody talks shit about. But I think it's hard to find anybody in the health and fitness industry, sports performance, coach, science guru, that has not read Muscle and Fitness magazine and or didn't have it like impact them in some way, good or bad. I remember the first one I got.
Okay. Do tell.
Well, I was about probably 10 or 11, and at the Kroger in my hometown, I asked my mom if I could get this Muscle and Fitness magazine. And she was like, yeah, my parents would buy me things that involved reading because I hated to read, which is very ironical considering I was once a PhD person. So I actually ended up loving reading. But
Ironical.
I didn't know what the cover was going to be, but I knew that there was this cop on the inside, this really jacked cop who wasn't super famous yet.
As a Derek Poundstone?
Damn, I'm old. It was Ronnie Coleman. It was like a young pre-HGH Ronnie Coleman. He was just on test. Anyway, it had a like fitness / bodybuilder chick on the front of it, basically naked. And she had like a rhinestone bra on or some shit. Selling the magazine, doing her job.
Not nearly the reason you bought it, though.
No, it actually wasn't. And so I was like ashamed / embarrassed to put it up on the conveyor belt, but I wanted the magazine really bad. So I put it up there face down, right?
Right.
Well,
What was on the back?
just an ad to sell boner pills or something. I don't know.
Something not amazing at all.
Right. Something my mom wouldn't care about.
Right.
And she said, my mom's like kind of June Cleaver-ish, oh, honey, did you find the magazine you wanted? And she talks just like that. I was like, yeah, Mom, it's up there, just put it in the bag. The chick checking out scans it and holds it up and shows it to my mom. And before she scans it, she's like, basically, to get the confirmation that my mom would let me have this magazine. And she did. So anyway, and I actually brought that story up to my parents when I was staying out there. But one thing that I thought was absolutely insane about this magazine was that on the top, it was sponsored by Amazon. Yes, that Amazon's sports nutrition component, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
And I saw that, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy this thing and thumb through it. And can I say this?
No.
Come on.
All right, okay.
This magazine was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, it was like mostly reasonable shit. Like,
I mean, they have food in there. They had a burger.
Right. And like a lot of it was like human performance type training, not just being a bodybuilder bro, which is kind of what I expected. I'm pretty sure there was one bodybuilder bro in there, but just like general health and fitness stuff, like pretty doable.
But I mean, the market's changed, right?
It was. To be honest, it reminds me a lot of Men's Health.
Yeah.
And despite technology and everything, I still subscribe to magazines because one, I like the visceral experience of holding and reading and things like that.
You just like the way they smell.
Kind of.
Right.
And they
They
smell
come
like
on.
opportunity. The other thing about it is that if you buy like pop culture shit, you know what's going on in like mainstream health and fitness, right? Because you'll know what their expectations are when they come to your facility to train, right? So I know, like I still subscribe to Men's Health, and I just know what information is out there. I know what's good. I know what's bad, and some of it's good. So anyway, that's why I do it. I also subscribe to Field and Stream magazine.
Okay.
That shouldn't surprise anyone.
So you can catch the fishes.
You gotta read the latest gun reviews. And what's the other one? Outdoor Life.
No, I don't subscribe to any of those.
I know you don't. So maybe I'll throw Muscle and Fitness back in the mix.
Maybe.
I think I'm gonna go. I actually try to subscribe to Wired magazine, but it's only like I think it's online now. Like I literally tried to get a hard print of it,
That would make sense.
and
I mean,
it's ironical again,
you know,
right?
I mean, it is Wired magazine.
But at one point they had a hard copy. So Wired magazine people, if you're listening, send your boy a subscription. I'm trying to like get Wired magazine, and then I also was looking for, because I heard some people that were in it. Is it Entrepreneur Inc. or Entrepreneur? Oh gosh, anyway, I was googling it from listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast. But anyway, I couldn't find a hard subscription. There is a hard subscription to the Harvard Business Review.
Oh, really?
If you'd like that.
I actually wouldn't.
Anyway, okay. So
people are gonna think we have nothing to talk about.
now we're
7
going
minutes
straight
in.
into weightlifting.
Okay.
All right. So we promised you we would knock some technical content out, and this is going to be it. And I actually last week got an email from somebody who screenshotted an article we put up on liftlabco.com, and it was based on how to do the 10-day taper leading up to a meet. And he was like, "Is this still the taper that you guys are using?" And my answer was, yes. It's very general, and you're going to have to mend it and mold it to the athlete. But he's an experienced lifter. I'm like, there's some things that could be figured out.
Yeah, and like my biggest thing I think with meet prep, probably going back to an actual old book, and I forget the actual name of it, but it talked about like when people go to peak or when people go to train for meet, it is a physical, mental, and also emotional peaking, right? So we're going to talk about nuts and bolts of some of it, of like of the sets and reps, and the overall design of the taper or program. But like, let's not forget this is like a component of the overall thing,
Absolutely.
right? Of like the big picture aspect.
Sure.
Okay.
So I basically took 5 questions that we probably most commonly get asked via our members or email, and I added one bonus topic to get into. But the first thing to cover with your meet preparations, we are in a mass-specific sport, i.e. a bodyweight category.
Correct.
So thus, you need to manage your body weight, unless you're super heavyweight. Then
you just need to be big.
you just need to be big. And probably consume some food that has some reasonable nutritional content. Okay? So,
Fuel.
where we're going with this is most of our athletes don't walk around just naturally in their body weight category. Ideally, we like to have them 2 to 3 kilos above their body weight category so that they can eat enough to support the training and the strain and like the grind of training. In general, the lighter you are, the closer to that body weight category we like you. Okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to end up reducing your body weight by a percentage of your total body weight. So if you're a 48 kilo lifter and you are walking around at 53 kilos,
It's a little bit of weight to carry.
okay, you're looking at a greater than 10% body weight reduction, which we know negatively affects performance.
Right. I believe the standard, just to give some background, is roughly like if you try to cut more than, like definitely more than 5, right, you are in a bad situation.
Sure.
And I would say even 3 if you're trying to cut 3%, like week of or so, you're not in the best situation.
Absolutely.
So 5% is considered like you're not going back. Like you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have serious performance problems then.
Absolutely. So you can see where if you were a 105 lifter and you're walking around 5 kilos over your body weight, not a big deal, right? That's pretty easy. And the other kind of caveat to this is there's going to be body weight reduction things that occur that are solely caused by maybe poor nutrition or electrolyte imbalance. Okay. And so basically what I'm talking about is, are you consuming excess salty foods, excess processed foods that are keeping you with an extra 2 kilos on, and you're not gaining anything nutritionally from it? And so people are like, oh, well, I'll just stop consuming sodium and my body weight will drop. And because that's not a reduction in energy, then I won't have any negative effects. And that's not 100% true. Okay, so your hydration level and the homeostasis of where your body's at with your fluid levels is probably helping your performance when you're training, right? So when you reduce that sodium, you don't have that, right? You have technically less fluid in your body
floating around to help.
Exactly. So when we're talking about managing body weight, we really want to see you cut out like the sodium components of it early. All right. And when I say early, I'm going to say 4 to 6 weeks out. Okay. Because if you're 6 weeks out from a meet and you remove like your sodium, your high processed foods, which you shouldn't be eating anyway, just for general health.
They, like you said, they don't really provide any extra performance benefits per se, right?
Per se.
Maybe a little extra salt, but you usually consume plenty of sodium when you eat food anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So we would like to see you dump that kind of just excess water weight a little earlier, so your body gets used to it, right? So there is a little bit of an adjustment period. So if 6 weeks out from a meet you dropped that salty snack you're eating or whatever, and you find that you're 2 kilos lighter, now we have a better idea of what we're actually going to work at reducing over the next 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, and this is a much more manageable process. The scenario that I almost do not like to be in is water cut scenario.
I think after nationals last year, so we
were basically like we need to stop.
Right, we basically decided you're not going to load, you're not going to cut. This is
and
we've
so
seen it go wrong too many times.
Right, we've seen it go really, really bad, and this goes back to that whole thing of that balance and hydration, making that cut. It's not that you can't do it and perform well. We were just seeing much more inconsistent performances. It was like really throwing off what the opener should have been, which is something we'll get to here in a little bit. But it wasn't that people were like just totally bombing out or anything like that, but just the consistency of the performance was gone. So kind of have tried to get away from the water load, the water cut, which you can read about those all online. Precision Nutrition actually has like a protocol for it, and that's the one that we were using. And it does work well, and it gets you into the category you need. However, and they will tell you this, it can be dangerous, right? That's one thing. And two, the performance variable, for whatever reason, some athletes respond, some don't. I've noticed that our athletes that are wrestlers, pretty good with it.
Right. They've like done it. They're running around with a trash bag on,
right.
So they're like, okay.
They have lived the miserable weight cut lifestyle. Yeah. So that's all we're going to say on, kind of on body weight management for now. We're just going to leave it at that. But in general, let's try to be, when you're 4 or 5 weeks out from your competition, around 3 kilograms to where you need to compete at, right? Maybe 2 if you're a lighter weight class.
Maybe 4 or 5 if you're big.
Exactly. So just kind of looking in the middle. That way you have something reasonable where you can lose, a kilo a week, and it's going to be safe and normal. And ideally for us, we would like you to be able to eat the morning before you weigh in. We'd like you to be able to eat dinner. We'd like you to be able to be fueled.
Like the day before. Because it's a miserable experience when you go to a meet and you have to sit in your hotel for 2 days doing nothing.
I said we weren't going to say any more on it, but here we go.
Right.
And the other thing to keep in mind when people sometimes use the water cut as a crutch, right? there's some good research out there showing like optimal levels of body fat percentage and power output and things like that. But the general take-home message is fat don't flex. Okay, and so
Did you read that in Muscle and Fitness?
I didn't read that in Muscle and Fitness, but basically athletes you're like, you could just stop being fat, okay, and not have to worry about the water cut. Like Dan Brown right now could water cut like 10 pounds, but like over the next year I could lose like 40 just in fat. Yeah, it's just easy to water cut.
Right.
You know, so there's like a laziness component to it as well, which I don't like. It's very frustrating, especially like, you know, if you want to be the best and you're in a weight class sport, like you need to figure out how to manage your weight. The other extreme to that, a good example, and she performed really well at Pan Am's, was Alyssa Ritchie. She was like walking around at 53 kilos and competing at 48. And on top of that, she's not really have body fat. Like very, very low level of body fat.
Small human.
Yeah, so my prediction will be she no longer lives in that 48 kilo class. I think that's probably the end of that. But and she looked like she dealt with the cut fine, but you can only do that so many times. It'll wear you out.
And I think every time it's more extreme, you know, like the feedback we've gotten is it just keeps getting harder.
Exactly. But you know, and she's already a lean athlete. If you're a not lean athlete that's just water cutting, you just need to reduce your body fat. Reduce your body fat, keep it low, train a little lower body fat than you normally do, and go from there. Okay. Now that segues us nicely to selecting openers. Okay. So if you mess up your weight management, and we watch you train in the gym leading up, and we're like, man, this athlete has not missed this 100-kilo snatch in the last 3 weeks. Okay. And has taken it 6 times a session, 3 sessions a week. That's their money. Okay.
Right. Every time.
Right. Every time. It's a 94% of their max, whatever. So we're like, okay, 100 is going to be our opener. It might end up actually being 99 or 101 on the day of the meet, depending on how the meet's flowing. But if your body weight and your weight cut and your hydration level just screws you up, and you go into that meet and you just aren't performing, it's going to throw off what your opener can be, right? Because all of a sudden, let's say you ditched 5 kilos in 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, a week.
Yeah.
We've seen way more extreme than that.
Right, and you don't feel good.
Right.
And you just ate a bunch of bacon and biscuits and gravy.
We had that experience.
And you're not going to do well.
And you're not going to do well. You're going to miss your opener, and people are going to be like, why is this moron opening this athlete up so high? Well, I don't know. This moron didn't go over there and eat bacon and eggs and, you know, cut 5 kilos the night before. So, and now honestly, as a coach, you want to try to adjust back down, right? But you also get in this scenario if you're at a meet where you're planning on opening around 100, and let's say the rest of the field's opening at 50. Well, you're not going to start warming that athlete up when everybody else starts warming up. So you start getting them moving, and then you realize, shit, 100's not happening.
Yep.
We can drop this down. Well, then you're racing against the clock to get warmed up. Then the other thing is, though, if they're not looking real good, giving them a faster warm up probably going to just make the problem worse.
Just compounds everything.
So now you're in a real shit bag of a situation, right? And so that's how the managing your body weight really affects selecting your openers. Now, in general, back to like everything's going hunky-dory, gravy baby, how are we selecting openers, okay? We were all at Nationals, and it was more or less a bloodbath out there in terms of, you looked at the scoreboard, lots of red.
Lots of red.
In selecting openers, we had one athlete, I think we chose a poor opener for in a snatch, and he ended up going one for 3 and hit his opener on his 3rd attempt. But
not the position you want to be in.
Right, and to be honest, the reason for that was we let him dictate what that opener was going to be. Like we gave him some advice and said, I don't think you should open that high. He chose not to take the advice. I've always said it's the athlete's career, it's their journey. If they're adamant, I'm not fighting them, because I wouldn't want somebody like, you know, if I was in that position, I'd want to have some control. And so,
but it was not hitting those numbers consistently.
Wasn't hitting them consistently in the gym, which is why I suggest we not open with it.
Correct.
And so that's like the first thing is somebody can have a a 1 rep max of XYZ and they've hit it one time in their life. Okay, now the chances of them hitting it for the second time in their life as their opener, slim to none, right? So in general, we're looking at opening our athletes in roughly 92 to 94.5% of their max, assuming that in the training blocks leading up, they're consistent at what that percentage would be.
Correct.
Okay? And then our second attempt is scheduled to be around 98% of their max, again, having a good idea of what their true max is. And then we always say PRs are for meet day. Their third attempt is going to be that 101, 101%. Okay? And this is an extremely fluid situation. Everybody and anybody that's competing in weightlifting knows that if you can hit your best lift on meet day, that's a win. If you set a PR on meet day, that's a win.
It's a pretty
right?
solid day.
If you hit 98% on a meet day, that's pretty
solid
damn
day.
good. Okay, so in general, those are the numbers we'll use for, let's say, a real experienced athlete. Somebody with lesser experience, that scale slides down. Okay, we might 92% area for the opener. And then maybe that 95, 96 for the second attempt, and then getting close to their max, probably a little under their max, honestly, for their third attempt.
Correct.
Okay, because the whole point is to try to, win the meet or get them placement or ranking or whatever. And you have to have that conversation with them.
Well, so I had this conversation with somebody yesterday, and she, she's already qualified for the American Open, and she said, what's this meet going to be for? Like, am I going to open heavier? Am I going to open lower? Like, what's the plan? And I basically explained most of those things to her. Where, like, number one, it's like you have to consistently hit a weight in order, to take that lift on the platform. And for her, where there's nothing really on the line, in terms of the meet, right? She's already qualified for the more important meet. It's to get her more experience at that level, because she already has some. But we just need to, we need to make it to that level. Then we need to compete at that level. So we're going to learn to compete at that level a little bit more. But, for this meet coming up in a month, we've got a bunch of lifters that have never been to a national level meet.
Yeah.
So it's more of that scenario where you described, where we're gonna look to get them a total. Like, they need to hit like at least 2 lifts. They need to go 2 for 6.
Sure.
So that they hit a total, so that they can get a little bit of confidence. Hopefully, 5 for 6, 6 for 6 would be the goal.
Absolutely.
But it's, for their first time, they're going to go out there and they're going to see the lights, and they're going to be on the stage, and they're going to be on the platform, and they're going to have all these people looking at them. They're going to have a big room with like nothing in the background, and there's the potential to freak out.
For sure.
So it's a totally different experience. And she asked, kind of like, what's this meet for? It's like, well, every meet is something different for somebody. Like a local meet, like last weekend, it was just another meet to get, most people just more experience. A few people had to go hit numbers, and we had to go chase those numbers.
Sure.
So, there's another question to kind of maybe like put before that one and say, like, what are we doing here?
Sure. And I think that when you're on, you have to have that conversation before. Then when you're on meet day, right? So everybody has like a card or something that they have, like a Tim's wrote down on. You'll see most coaches in the back room with a pen and a paper and like making adjustments. And what they're doing, or what I'm doing at least, is I always have the warm-ups I plan to take with what we've agreed upon will be the opener, right? And so I always try to map those warm-ups out roughly 3 minutes apart. Okay, now this is not perfect because shit happens in a meet. Everybody knows that. And then I'll like to have certain indicators of what 90% is or 80% is or things like that. So if you're going to open at, let's say you're going to open at 95% of their max, and their last warm-up is at 92% of their max. Like, I want to know what that number is, because I want to know what 89% is, like what those things should look like, just in case I need to, make some adjustments down or up, right? It goes both ways. There's plenty of times, I've done both,
Right.
where I've warmed people up. Occasionally, there's been athletes that look like just dog shit in the back room. We've all been there, right? Drop them down. they make their opener, and then like the weight of the world is lifted off their shoulders, and you make bigger jumps, and they end up finishing right where they wanted to finish. Right? So it's all about, like understanding your athletes and making those adjustments. Okay? So there goes to the openers, how we're going to select that. And let's talk about these next two we'll kind of combine here. This one gets asked all the time. I told you that somebody emailed in, is this the 10-day taper you're using? Or people ask, is this what your deload week looks like? Meaning the week before the competition. And I do not necessarily like the term deload. I know what they're getting at, but just with a strong understanding of physiology, like if you've properly planned things, the only thing you really need a deload from is the mental strain, right? It's like a deload week to me if an athlete's like, I need a deload week, which means like they're mentally probably fried more than physically, because we have like a pretty solid management of the total training volume that's each person's capable of, okay? So with the deload week, people always ask, am I gonna squat? And people always ask like, how much of this and how much of that? And we have a generic one out there that gives some percentages for 10 days leading out from competition day. We've done longer, we've done shorter, we've also done none, like we've done train through meets, but in general, 10 days is about the sweet spot for how we like to taper athletes. And that doesn't mean that there's no heavy training, it just means that the heavy training, the volume is really controlled low, and it's gonna, the last heavy-ish day, I would say, is maybe 4 days before the competition, 5 days before the competition, where they will get up to that 90%, 92%. They're never going to go max or anything like that, but we will work up to an opener is what it says on our sheet if you go check it out. So we'll say work up to an opener. You'll also notice that in general, we keep squatting in. Okay, once they get to a certain level, that may change depending on what the athlete likes and doesn't like. But squatting can give the athletes still like a strong stimulus to handle weight, and you can do it in a low volume that doesn't tax and fatigue them to a point where they can't perform. Okay, so there's like in some other sports where you taper the week before, you basically don't do anything. Maybe you're a power lifter, we'll say, the other barbell sport, and you just sleep and eat pizza for a week.
7 to 10 days.
Right.
Pretty much.
Of
not
docile energy conservation.
Right.
And that doesn't work with Olympic weightlifting because of the skill component, right? And I'm not bashing on CrossFit, geez, that's a defensive thing. I'm not bashing on powerlifting, it's just the movements are not as complex, right? They're more straight line movements. I mean, of course, there's nuances to it. I'm not saying there's not nuances to it, but in Olympic weightlifting, there's just a lot more moving parts. Okay, so you don't want to lose like the connection with the bar because you're doing such little work. Okay, but in general, we're reducing their total training volume. You try kind of think about super compensation. We posted about that too. They should be swinging back up. Okay,
training volumes.
Training volumes down, total loads down, total just all of it's down. They might still have a couple heavy lifts, but that's not going to beat their body up to the point where they can't recover, right? It's just going to keep them. It's a real, sport-specific adaptation. Okay, so that's kind of what that looks like, and within that, we will leave squatting in for the general lifter. Some of them are level 3s, a little more advanced. They don't. And some of the level 3s maybe hit a little less volume because their technique is really consistent, and they don't want to go with heavy. They want to get a little more recovery out of it. I mean, that's pretty individualized, but in general, check out the 10-day taper. It's something for you to enjoy. Now, if you see here, DG, that was 0.3, 0.4. We're going.
That was two for.
That was a twofer.
Right, that was two for. Night before and days before.
Okay, so you're going to the.
Go to the meet.
You're going to the meet. Let's say that you're someplace you've never been before, such as the AO, The AO series is a good one. Because a lot of people qualifying for that because the totals are lower, which I think is great.
It's a lot more involvement.
A lot more involvement in the sport. It gives people exposure of what's to come. I just think the opportunity is great. Makes USA weightlifting a little money. Not a bad thing. So, all in all, it's good. But let's say you're going to go to the AO. You've never been to a national meet before. There's vendors. There's booths. Nike weightlifting's there.
Slamming some sweet gear.
You're going to go buy some swag from Nike weightlifting, and you're going to spend. Killcliff now, by the way.
Really, they're coming?
No. They are a partnership with USA Weightlifting. So
a little line on the platform.
Yeah, if you notice the Pan Am platform, how the Killcliff wrap around it. So you're going to walk around, you're going to buy stuff from the vendors, you're going to watch weightlifting because who doesn't love to watch weightlifting? I love to watch weightlifting. One of my favorite things to do is to watch weightlifting. And if you happen to have a chance where you can see like world-class weightlifting live, you should see it 100%. You should. Right.
There's a lot of energy in the room.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of highs and lows.
Yes.
Which is great for us.
For sure.
Not so great for the person who needs to go through one of those highs and lows.
Exactly. So if you're an athlete competing, and I totally get it, you're going to want to watch some weightlifting. You're going to want to hang out with your team some, but you have to really make sure that you're not expending too much energy and too much mental energy before you lift, okay? Now, this is harder for the heavier class athletes because they typically lift later. So if you're a 48 or a 53, you're lifting on day one, you're the first session, you're done, you're hanging out.
And you're eating pizza.
Man, I cut. Slamming beers, like you go insulin resistant on a bag of grandma's cookies, like you do the whole damn thing. But if you're an athlete that lifts like the next day or 2 days later or 3 days later, you don't want to just be hanging around the venue, walking around, go to Nike, buy your Nike products. First day is going to have the most shit anyway.
Right.
Okay, buy it on the first day.
Go and get it.
Spend all your money. Empty the pockets. Travis will take your cash. Go in, watch weightlifting. Watch a session here. Watch a snatch session here. Clean and jerk session here. Maybe a full session. Right. But not 6, 8, 12 hours of weightlifting.
Go to your room. This is like the boring part, right? It's like go to your room, relax.
You
off
are
your feet.
There to compete. This would be the ideal opportunity to have a very nice iPad or some hotel cable. Careful what you order. If you remember from Little Big League, when he is managing the Twins and he orders night nurses from Jersey 17 times. His mom wasn't happy. Anyway, go in your hotel room, watch some Netflix, relax. Don't move around too much. And you got to fight the temptation to really just hang. All your other teammates that have listed earlier, they're going to want to go out to eat, drink beer. If you're in a cool city, they're going to want to go out and maybe have a little nightlife.
Right, do something fun.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I usually try to go out with the team a few times. I probably do it less now, but I remember Dallas almost killed me like a few years ago because we had 15 athletes.
I remember.
And I was going out every night. After the last session, we always had somebody in the last session and like having beers.
It'd be like at 10 p.m.
Yeah, and by the time you get done, it's 12, 1, 2, a couple beers, whatever, and you go back to the hotel, and then you got an athlete that's weighing in at 6 a.m. and they've never done it before, so you got to walk them through the process, and it's exhausting. So for the athletes, it's even worse though. You don't want to be in that emotional heightened state of watching weightlifting and watching somebody fail or do bad, and then it crashes you, and you start wondering, well, am I going to go up there and bomb out? There's too much going on.
It's just not good.
Get in your room, get some rest, go to the training hall, consume the food that you brought. Don't eat out until after you've competed, and then go hang out, relax. And I think,
like for me, it was probably easier like with rowing because it was always hot outside, and you had to be outside when you practiced. So it was always like you need.
I need to go get in air conditioning.
It's like it's hot, right? You're gonna go sit in your room and take naps and just like sit in the AC and hydrate.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be outside. Like off your feet, in like a cool environment, totally out of the sun. These are all things that we did, and like looking back on them, like that probably really helped me just kind of relax.
For sure.
And so, but it's harder to do when you're in a hotel.
For sure.
And it's not hot outside, and there's nothing to really escape.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
But like the emotional effects and the physical effects, they're all still there. And like even the day of the meet, like if you go to a local meet, like the goal is like go weigh in, and then maybe just leave.
We'll lay down in the corner.
Right. Or
Take your headphones and lay in the corner.
It's like find somewhere to sleep.
Right. Exactly.
Where you can just relax. Because there's a lot going on.
I think the best investment, noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
Just go do that. All right. So now it's your day to lift.
Yes.
You've weighed in, and now you have some expectation for what the warm-up room is going to be like. Okay, and this is our final piece of the meet preparation. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go into the warm-up room. You're not going to have your own platform. Your favorite song is not going to be playing. You may not even be the best lifter in your session. People may not give a shit when you want to take a rep.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's busy. Coaches are running around looking at boards, checking numbers, doing this, making adjustments, pinning numbers on people's hips, and it starts getting a little chaotic. And the warm-up room is something that can distract you significantly if it's at your first meet. So what you need to do is you need to understand that when you go into that warm-up room, I would probably still take those noise-canceling headphones, and I would just sit in my chair and do absolutely jack shit until my coach said, I need you to do 3 warm-ups with the bar, or whatever. But the problem is people go in the warm-up room and they start looking around at what everybody else is doing, okay? And that can create a distraction and cause you to lose focus. I've also talked extensively. It was exclusive. It's exclusive on liftlabco.com.
It was very ironical.
It was ironical and extensiveness about mental skills training, right? And being prepared for things like this that are coming down the pipe. So you know that you need to have a mental checklist to go through when you're in the warm-up room so you're not distracted by all the people running around. For example, we will use Paige because she gets stressed out, okay? Just like about just things. And I'm not saying stress like angry, but like little things will catch her attention.
Yeah.
It was a couple years ago. I think it was her first time in an A session. She was super excited. Okay, that's an anxiety thing. It's a stress thing. It's good stress. Mm-hmm. And she was warming up. And old squad everyday coach Travis Mash walks on the platform, and Paige damn near decapitates him with a 40-kilo bar. And
it might have been just the empty bar. This was back with the Arnold.
This was at the Arnold. Okay,
because it was like this.
Yes, the warm-up room was tiny. And of course, Travis Mash has been in somewhere around 12,000 back rooms, I'm sure.
Didn't give a shit.
Didn't break stride.
Didn't even care.
And I told Paige, she was like, oh my God, I'm going to hit somebody. And I was like, that's their fault. Right? Like everybody knows the deal back here.
Yep.
If I get whacked in the face with a bar in a back room,
that's your own damn fault.
My fault.
Yeah.
Okay, we all know that it's tight and it's cramped and you gotta be on the move. Mm-hmm. And so as an athlete, you have to have that same mentality. I'm about to sling this bar around, and you better be looking out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, occasionally you'll get a courtesy tap on the back with somebody saying, "Hey, watch out! Mm-hmm. My athlete may kill you."
Right. Right.
But don't count on it. And when you're an athlete, count on people stepping on your platform, walking in front of you, disrupting your visual field, talking, yelling across the room. You'll hear, he's 8 out, take this in 3 drops. Like, if people are just going to yell shit, they're not going to wait till you're done with your attempt. Yeah, because nobody cares how you do.
Right. They all have one focus.
And that's their athlete. As it should be. I don't give a shit about what any other athlete's doing.
Yeah.
Don't care. I'm there for one athlete.
Right. And, I had this past Saturday where I said, telling my loaders, I need you to put this on the bar. They went to properly plate it, and I was just like, I don't give a shit about how you load that warm-up bar.
Just put it on.
Just put it on there. We have time, right? And that's about it, right? And time is of the essence. Don't worry about pulling plates off. Again, just load it and get it done.
Get it done, get it moving.
That's about it.
And I think, as a coach, it's your job to set the expectation for the athlete, get the athlete ready to go, tell them it's going to be a stressful environment. Mm-hmm. Bingo, bango, dingo, dango, you're done. Okay, get in, get out, lift, it'll go fast. So,
DG, that's it.
Did you check those off?
Let me hit I talked about the 9 days before. Done.
You even wrote them
warm-up
all in
room.
different colors.
Done. That is all that I have today. Our goal was to stay at 30 minutes. Had I not done
The
7 minutes of
muscle.
and fitness,
Maybe
and
you gave them 2 article ideas, so they should listen up. Of fat don't flex,
fat don't flex.
and then 7 minutes of muscle and fitness.
I want the title of this podcast to be "Fat Don't Flex." How to prep for a meet. All right, put that in these notes.
Okay, notes.
All right.
Okay. We are out.
I'm going to be going to the CrossFit Games to see our Killcliff rep, Austin Cahoy, Viking some shit. Check out Athlete Performance Solution for all the Nike weightlifting gear, and we will see you
Next week. You just shot the